Pinellas County 2 times in the last week. Sit down. We did the I did a Supreme Court appointment at Seminole High School, and the Justice Adam Tannenbaum was the valedictorian of Seminole High School in like 1989. And then he was like #1 at UF undergrad. I think he went to Georgetown Law, and has been an appeals court judge now for the last 4 or 5 years. And so, what are the odds that you would come back to your high school, and right here in Pinellas County, and then get appointed to the Supreme Court of the state, 30 years later, however long later? Probably not very high odds, but even less odds that you would have a Dunedin Falcon governor appoint somebody who went to Seminole. So that we're running a little late. I will say, the Hard Rock Stadium hosted the national championship last night, and at the time, when that was announced, it was like we didn't know who'd be in it, and then obviously the University of Miami made it, and my kids, having grown up in Tallahassee, like, they're Florida State fans. That's just what they are, and they will not listen to anything else about any other school. It just is, and that's not us, dude. That's just them. But I finally got, and my son's the most rabid. He's in 2nd grade, and he's the most rabid. And I told him, I said, this is like a week ago, who are you going to root for? Indiana. I was like, you can't root for Indiana. You're a Florida. I was like, you've got to root for. And so finally, he's like, all right, I'm going to root for Miami. So he rooted for Miami and got really into it. And, it was an exciting game. And, Miami's come a long way from, they used to be the best of the best and then had some lean years. And so they've got a great trajectory. They're going to do very well. But I will say, so I bet the governor of Indiana on the game. And so he's like, hey, and he's a good guy. And he said, hey, Governor, how about we bet the Hoosiers win? If the Hoosiers win, then you send me something. But if Miami wins, we'll send you sugar cream pie and pork tenderloin or something like that. Which, look, I'm sure is good. Don't get me wrong. But I put up key lime pie and stone crabs from Joe's. It's a little bit of an imbalance in the bet here, right? I mean, come on. And so we are going to make good on that promise. It's funny, as soon as I made that bet, I had all these people like, oh, let me know, I'll send it over and all that other stuff if Indiana wins. And so, but the one thing I said is, honestly, half of Indiana's in Marco Island at this time of year. Can I just bring the stuff to Marco Island? It'd be a lot easier for us. But they do deserve credit. I mean, it's like, as a governor, I'm rooting for Miami, but just as an American, watching a program that had more losses than any program in the history of college football hire this great coach, go to the playoffs in his first year, and then go 16-0 and win the national championship, and your quarterback wins the Heisman Trophy, and you don't have very many 4 or 5 stars. It's basically, guys that are very hungry and very well coached. And so, it was a really neat moment, I think, for college football. As much as I want to see Miami win, to see that happen was pretty something else. So congratulations to Indiana. There's certain states around this country that, especially in January, you don't have to look very far, especially on if talking about the Midwest. You go anywhere on the west coast of Florida, you're going to run into Hoosiers. You're going to run into people from Michigan or Illinois or Ohio. I mean, that's just everywhere you go. So I know that also had impact. And in fact, people were like, the state of Florida is the only one that's going to be rooting for Miami. All 49 other states are going to be rooting for Indiana. And I said, well, I'm rooting for Miami, but honestly, outside of the 305 area code, I'll bet you more people even in Florida were rooting. That's just the way it is. We've got a lot of influence there. So congratulations on that. We're here at St. Pete College. Very glad to be back. Thanks to Dr. Williams for having us and all the stuff that you guys are doing. I know we got a lot of the board members here who are doing a great job. We have our education commissioner, Stasi Kamutsis, is with us, as well as Ray Rodriguez, who's the State University chancellor of our #1 rated public state university system. I think we've got it many years in a row now, and I'm proud of that. But I'm most proud of lowest tuition in the nation. I mean, that's what parents really want, right? We also have Kelsey Krebs. She's a nursing student here in St. Pete College. And so one of the things we're obviously going to talk about new money for our nursing initiative, and it's the type of thing where we've stressed workforce education tremendously since I've been governor. There's always a push. When I was growing up, it's like you got to go get that 4-year degree, and I'm not saying some of those degrees aren't good, but like, you know, there's a lot of students that went a lot in debt at some of these universities around the country and then have some degree in some, you know, obscure subject, and they're not exactly, you know, the C's aren't exactly parting for them when they get out of college. It's just the reality, and a lot of them had debt, and they were underemployed. And so, you know, our view is, you know, yeah, you could do traditional 4-year. We want to make sure our students have access to that and can do well. But this workforce education is really important, and that spans a lot. You can get a certification in high school in Florida to do welding or HVAC, and I will tell you that is in demand. You can come to our state colleges and you can get skills that are very hands-on, but they're advanced skills that are going to have really good application in the real world. And so that was just an insight we had from the beginning. We wanted to improve Florida's commitment to workforce education, and we have done that dramatically. We've had, through all of our education and job training and workforce programs since 2019, $12 billion. Obviously, a lot at our state colleges, which we're proud of, has gone into that, and the results have been very, very positive. But the nursing in particular, so that was something that we had always talked about on a certain extent. But then when COVID hit, you had this massive shortage of health care and nurses around the country. So it got to the point where, you know, you'd have like a COVID wave in New York, and then you'd have a COVID wave in the Midwest, and then the Southeast. And it wasn't, you know, it was regional, and it was even seasonal the way it was going. Well, if you have more hospitalizations in one area, you need more people. And then if the nurses are getting infected, then they've got to sit out until they get in. You have all these things happening. So you had a cottage industry of these like private nursing companies, I guess, where they would be like going, and these nurses were making a lot of money. So yeah, if you're willing to move to San Francisco for the next 3 months, you know, you'll get $30,000 a month or whatever. And like, yeah, you know, we're going to do that, right? So people were doing that. So it's like this battle to be able to get nurses and to be able to go. You know, it's my mother was a nurse for 40 some years. They weren't paying that much money then on these things. She was very good too, so she would have commanded that. But I mean, it just got to be, it was like really crazy. And like, honestly, a lot of the hospitals are like, we need more people, we need more people. So that kind of really highlighted the issue, you know, that we had there. So we, partially because of that experience, we've launched programs to be able to do it. So we launched 2 major programs. Our LINE program, Linking Industry to Nursing Education. This program's a competitive dollar-for-dollar matching grant that supports partnerships between educational institutions and healthcare providers. And so the money that is dedicated to that can give scholarships to students who meet requirements, recruit faculty to teach, purchase equipment, and to support simulation centers. You actually see, I mean, I was walking in here, I thought it was a real person in that bed. It's a mannequin. I'm like, oh, okay, so you do that. And so we've had that. We've also established the pipeline program, prepping institutions, programs, employers, and learners through incentives for nursing education. And that's to reward performance and excellence amongst our post-secondary nursing programs. So the funds for that go to, are based on the number of nursing education program completers, the first-time National Council for State Board of Nursing Licensing Examination passage rates, and excellence among nursing education programs based on the average of first-time passage rates above the national average. And so both of those have been really good, and that's why we're here today. So I'm proud to announce we can now say that since the inception of the line and pipeline programs in 2022, Florida has invested close to $500 million to support nursing education and address this vital need. But even better, today I'm proud that we are able to award an additional $20 million in line funding with $14.5 million awarded to state colleges and private post-secondary education, and $6 million to our state universities. And if you look at what we've done in both of these programs, I think we probably are now, just for what we're doing, and I know there's been other things in the private sector, whatever, we're now producing 1,000 plus additional nurses than we were before those every year between our state colleges and our state universities. And so that's a meaningful increase when we were probably, about, what were we, 700 for what were we for state colleges?
We were about 4,773, and now we're at over 5,100.
Yeah, so over 5,100, yeah. So, and then the state universities, we've gone up even more on the state universities. And so, and these are different programs, and there's different things you got to do depending on it. But that's an increase, significant increase on a percentage basis, and that's really, really meaningful. And obviously, part of that you just have to do to keep up with population growth and some of the other things that we've seen in Florida. We can also say that more than 85 million has been awarded since 2022 for our line funding, $61.5 million to state colleges and $24 million total to state universities. So that's throughout the inception of the program. So what we're doing, the $20 million this year is a big chunk of that, and that's really, really meaningful for a lot of these programs. Since 2022, $400 million in pipeline funds has been provided to post-secondary education, $240 million for state colleges and districts, and $160 million for state universities. So those are really to address the nationwide nursing shortage. It's very important. St. Pete College partnership has resulted in $340,000 in total anticipated line investments, including $160,000 matched by HCA Florida, $100,000 by Baycare, and $80,000 requested for 25-26 matched by Baycare, Advent Health, and HCA as well. So line funding helps places like St. Pete College better serve working and part-time students, ensuring more Floridians can enter and compete high-demand nursing programs while gaining that hands-on, real-world experience. And look at the results. St. Pete College's National Council licensure examination pass rate for the most recent year we have record was 94.1%. That is much in our overall. That's much better than the overall passage rate in Florida, which is 83%. And so it shows you that at St. Pete College, they're getting the job done, and we really appreciate that. University of South Florida across the Bay awarded $23 million through Pipeline and Line over these years, and they've received $3.6 million awarded through the Line program that has been matched in full by community partners, including Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital, who also donated $1 million on top of those matches. And so we really appreciate their, and honestly, it's in their interest to do this because they need to make sure that they have a qualified workforce, and they don't really want to get involved in these bidding wars where they're having to pay whatever. It really was that 18-month period, I don't know that you've ever seen anything like that. That was a really big, so they want stability. They want to make sure that they hire good people, that they can be there and not constantly have employees be poached by their places around the country. So it's in their interest to make sure we're producing an adequate supply here. Now, we recently announced our budget that we would have $130 million to support nursing education and workforce initiatives, $100 million for Pipeline, and $30 million for Line. So the mission continues. We understand the need is there. We understand that we have a growing state. We also have a demographically more advanced state. That's just kind of the nature of it in terms of what we're doing. It's part of the reason why you have so many Hoosiers in Naples and Marco Island, because they work there and then they're able to retire at least part-time in the Sunshine State. And even though it's a little chilly by our standards now, I would not want to trade the weather in Pinellas Park for the weather in Bloomington, Indiana right now. I just think it's likely to be a lot colder. So you see why the appeal is for people to be able to come and be able to do this. So I want to thank the members of the legislature who were involved with launching this. I think we launched it under Wilton Simpson and Chris Sprouse, who both from the Tampa Bay area back during that time, and that was really fantastic that they were able to do it, and we've continued to see success for this. And so, ultimately the results speak for themselves. We're producing more quality nurses. We've got strong performances at places like St. Pete College. And so, you still hear about workforce needs for healthcare. It's not like the issue is totally gone, but I would say the decibel level has been muted from where we were a few years ago, where this was like something that they would always talk about. They have seen some improvement in this because of the efforts that we've been doing here today. So I'm excited for this. I'm excited to award the $20 million, and we look forward to hearing from some of our other speakers. And so why don't we start with our Commissioner of Education.
Well, thank you, Governor, and good morning, St. Pete State College. It's great to be here with President Williams as well as the Board of Trustees. The full board is actually here today, so I'm happy to see them, and congratulations for all those who were recently appointed and reappointed. It's so great to live in the free state of Florida and to have the opportunity to work specifically in the area of education. Week after week, we continue to make announcements that speak to real results, real impacts that students are feeling. Just during the State of the State, a week ago, the governor announced a 92.2% graduation rate in the state of Florida, the highest in our state's history. As we continue to increase our standards, as we continue to attract high-quality teachers, we are seeing that our students are doing better and better. And so any notion that somehow our standards are being watered down is completely false. These students are performing better, and they're being more successful because we are focused on merit and achievement thanks to this governor. I also want to highlight what an amazing weekend it was in education this week. I was in Orlando, where I got to speak to over 550 students at the Florida Futures Educators of America Conference, where you had students in high school who are aspiring teachers that want to go and give back to their communities and have such a significant impact. And so it was great to talk to those students. And we also hosted our National Civics and Debate competition, the Great Debate, that was championed by this governor, where we had hundreds of students. This was a program that started with just 11 school districts years ago, but thanks to this governor, we have pushed so that all 67 districts are participating, and you had 15 states from across the country that flew students in to be able to participate in that civics and debate competition. So I was happy to be able to participate in that this weekend, and it's just great to be in Florida when it comes to education and so many other things. So today's announcement is yet another thing that we're able to tout where there are significant impacts that are happening across the state. The governor talked about my personal favorite system, the Florida college system. No offense to the university system, Chancellor Rodriguez, but the $14.5 million that is going to benefit those students that come as they are. Everybody knows the Florida college system accepts all students and helps them get on the pathway to prosperity through education. They show value, they show opportunity through education to all kinds of students from different backgrounds and zip codes. And so I'm so thankful that this investment is going specifically towards the nursing programs, to be able to beef up those programs, to be able to give those students an opportunity not just to see value in themselves, but to give back to their communities. And so this investment is going to specifically impact 20 of our 28 state colleges who will receive funding that will reinforce the critical role that our state colleges play as the backbone of Florida's workforce and future nursing of education here in the state. The LINE program, as the governor mentioned, has expanded access and strengthened outcomes by providing scholarships for students, supporting the recruitment of high-quality faculty, as well as providing robust training to these students. And our colleges are clearly maximizing that investment. And in addition, the annual production, as the governor mentioned, has increased nearly 10% in the state college system and even higher in the university system as far as those who are getting across the finish line and graduating in these programs. Florida's nursing students are also delivering results. Just last year, 88% of our registered nursing graduates and 91% of our licensed practical nursing graduates passed their NCLEX exams on the first attempt. That's a big deal. This is a testament to the quality and the rigor of these programs that these students are being exposed to. And so I look forward to continuing strengthening and expanding our nursing programs while also advancing additional workforce pathways that create meaningful opportunities for students and meet Florida's evolving workforce needs. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Governor. And today really is a great day, not just for higher education, but for the nursing programs as well. But before I address that, I want to make an observation because I'm not sure people in this room are aware of this. In many states, your college system and your university system are disconnected, they're disjointed, they don't communicate with one another. And studies show the number one reason why students who start in a college system and then transfer to a university system fail to graduate is because the credits they earned in the college system don't transfer to the university system. So they put in all that time earning the credits, and then when they go to transfer to get their bachelor's degree, they find out they've got to start all over in many cases. That doesn't happen in Florida. In Florida, you have a college system and a university system that are very close, communicate, and work together. And we have something other states don't have, which is a common course numbering system. So when students take a course in our college system and they come to the university system, our university system takes that course because it's the same course. And what that does is it promotes our graduation rate. It promotes persistence, it promotes retention, and it promotes success. And it happens because we have a governor that insists that we communicate and that we work together. And it happens because we have a legislature that supports our governor's championing of higher education and keeps our in-state tuition low and affordable and accessible. So all of that's what makes Florida, a part of what makes Florida, the number one state for higher education. And I'm proud to work under this governor, and I'm proud to work with Commissioner Kamoutsas. But today's great news is about what's happening in pipeline and line in our nursing program. And as the governor mentioned, we've had a significant investment from the university perspective. We have seen $184 million in total, $160 million into the pipeline program, $24 million into the line program. And what that's done is it has enabled us to expand our nursing programs, to foster partnerships between our institutions and community health care providers, and to support scholarships for our nursing students. So we have larger programs, scholarships for students, more students enrolling, and as a result of that, more nursing graduates. Since 24-25, our most recently completed year, we saw more than 400 students receive scholarships through this program. And those 400 scholarships have enabled us to expand our capacity and our number of nursing graduates. If you look back a decade ago, we had about 1,500 graduates, nursing graduates, from our system. In the most recently completed year, we were at 2,800 graduates from our nursing programs. That's an increase that comes from investments like this. And it's great to expand capacity, to have more scholarships, to have more students. It's great to see success in graduation. But what really matters is what happens after they graduate. Do they pass the licensure exam? And in Florida, as you've heard, that answer is yes. Our system graduation rate for the NCLEX exam is 94%. The national average is 92%. So not only are our students passing, we're passing at higher margins than students in other states. But even more important than passing the exam, what happens next? Do they get a job? And in Florida, that answer is yes. Over 90% of our bachelor's and nursing school graduates are employed within a year after obtaining their degree. Larger programs, more students, greater capacity, higher graduation rates, higher passage rates, and higher employment rates. That's what's going to make this state strong and keep us strong. Thank you, Governor.
Okay.
Good morning, Governor DeSantis. Thank you for your time being here and meeting with us. My name is Kelsey Krebs, and I'm the president of the Nursing Association. I will be graduating in May, and like many students, I'm balancing school, work, and family responsibilities. And and preparing to enter a field that is critically needed in our state. Financial assistance has had a significant impact on nursing students like me. Funds go beyond tuition. They help cover essential needs like childcare, transportation, and utilities. Without this support, many students are forced to take on loans or extra hours at work, which increase stress, burnout, and in some cases delay or prevent graduation altogether. Tuition assistance allows nursing students to focus on what truly matters, becoming a safe, competent nurse and ready to care for our community. When students are financially supported, they are more likely to complete their education on time and enter the workforce prepared and committed to staying in the profession. Financial assistance programs are essential, so we have the best resources and equipment for patient simulation, lab practice, and to build confidence and competence when we provide nursing care to real people. My inspiration for becoming a nurse started when I was younger, helping take care of my grandfather, and now watching my father go through cancer treatment. Nurses play a vital role during a person's most vulnerable moments, and it has strengthened my commitment to this profession and reinforced my access to education and why it matters. After graduation, I hope to work in the ICU or ER and continue my education to become a nurse practitioner. And investing in tuition assistance is an investment in our future in healthcare. Thank you for your time and considering the needs of nursing students across the state.
Good job. Well, great job. And are you from this area originally?
I was born in Mississippi, but grew up in Florida.
Okay, and then you went to high school where?
In Ida Baker and Gibson.
Okay, yeah, okay, well, good. Working your way up the west coast of Florida. It's a beautiful coast. You know, there are these people like that'll be like from like the Northeast, and they think Florida is like Miami, Palm Beach. That's their view of Florida. And it's nice, don't get me wrong, but you know, you go over in some of that Atlantic coast and you look, and like growing up on this coast, like, you know, it's just the quality of the sand and everything over here is pretty special, right? It just is what it is. So we're excited about this. We're going to keep pushing. This is something that really makes a difference. And we've done other stuff to really expand, you know, key needs. I mean, we've done the commercial driver's license and the truck drivers. I mean, you know, the fact that California is sending these people who don't even speak English and can't read the roads, and we've seen really bad things. You know, we're doing it, you know, with our state colleges and doing that, and we've increased that tremendously. And on down the line, we've been able to do a lot of really good stuff. So I think there's a lot of good opportunities, particularly in certain things like, you know, they say technology can disrupt this or that. You know, you're always going to need someone to be a nurse. Like, they can use technology to enhance their performance as a nurse, but you're never going to be able to adequately have like a robot doing that. It's just that there's human connection that's involved. You know, there's the empathy, the bedside manner, all that really matters to people when they're in, particularly when they're in critical situations, how they're cared for by those folks. So it makes a big difference, and I'm excited on that as well as these other things. So the momentum is real, and we're going to keep charging ahead. So, okay, do we've got any questions back there?
Governor, do you stand by your veto last session involving, that would have given the state more oversight over nursing programs based on the comments you
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That was a completely flawed bill. It was arbitrary in terms of, like, you know, some of the jobs that people would get or not get, that somehow the nursing program would be held accountable. I'm not saying it was like poorly motivated. I mean, I think they were trying to get at something, but the way it would have actually worked would not have done the trick. And so I know they're working on something going forward, and maybe they'll produce a better product. But I can tell you, any of the folks who've been involved with us in nursing, they were all opposed to the bill. No one thought it was going to be good.
Governor, the Sarasota County School Board is discussing a resolution that would allow, that would pledge their cooperation with ICE. Some critics are concerned that that would bring about law enforcement in schools to pull students or people out of it. Just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Well, first of all, Florida, you know, we dealt with this at the beginning of last year when you had the incoming Trump administration. Our local and state will cooperate with the federal government. Now, the federal government makes decisions about how they want to apply their limited resources. I don't think that they have chosen to use resources in that manner. I think they focused on some worksite enforcement. I think they focused on, obviously, criminal aliens, and so you've seen that. But I don't think any governmental entity in Florida it can be a sanctuary jurisdiction. That's just not what we are. And you see what's happening in some of these places. It's like, okay, we have elections in this country. People legislate laws on your behalf. You don't have to like it. In fact, you have the right to go out there and get new people in every 2 years in Congress, every 4 years for president. And what we had an election in 2024 on, there were a couple big issues, but one of them was we had 4 years of the border on the south being open. And millions of people flooded in this country illegally. And a lot of Americans didn't like that. And a lot of Americans wanted to see someone address that. And so candidate Donald Trump said as president, I'll tackle this, right? But I think what we're seeing in some of these jurisdictions who maybe voted the other way is, well, they don't want to see that. And so they think they're going to just go out there and disrupt some of this. We had a lady in Jacksonville that allegedly punched one of our state troopers. I tell you, you picked the wrong state to do that in. That ain't gonna fly here. So I see that around the country, and you see different stuff. You see what's happening in Minnesota. You see what's happening in all these things. You have threats against people who are doing their job. And like everybody who wields, state authority, federal, local, state, they need to be held accountable too. They've got to do the job correctly, and everyone should be held accountable accordingly. But to just be out there doing your job and having, some paid activist dox you, try to incite threats against you, that's unacceptable. It's very, very dangerous. And so for Florida, we're cooperating with the enforcement of the immigration laws in this country. Now, again, that doesn't mean that a school district has to go out and do things that a federal doesn't believe in doing. It's obviously driven by federal policy. We're not going to inhibit it. We're not going to try to countermand it, and we will be there, to be helpful. So, obviously the best example of that is the apprehension, the processing, detention, and then removal of illegal aliens in Florida. We've now, I said in my State of the State a couple weeks ago, between state and local, we had almost 20,000 apprehensions since February, March of last year when I signed the legislation until the beginning of January. That's over and above everything DHS is doing. And so that's a real, I think, difference maker. And I'll tell you, under the Biden administration, we would have criminal aliens serve time in prison in Florida. And it used to be you would alert ICE, they would take them, and sometimes Biden was just letting these convicted felons be released back on the streets, and they refused to take them. There'd be times when our highway patrol would be bring, and they wouldn't accept them. That's not the rule of law. That's just not the way things work. So what they're doing in some of those areas, in some of these northern states, California, Oregon, you just can't function that way. If you don't want If you want someone to be here illegally and you want to amnesty them, I disagree with that. But you got to elect candidates who are going to do that. You can't just say, I just disagree, with the election results, and I disagree with the law, so I'm going to take matters into my own hands. I don't think it doesn't work that way. And just think if the shoe was on the other foot. Imagine if Florida was like saying, on some just routine statutes with a different administration. I think the posture would be a lot different from how you see, some of the static. I will say this, though. We've shown that cooperation can avoid a lot of the issues that you're seeing in some other parts of the country. I think when you have governors and locals that are trying to thwart, it's going to create friction. That's just the reality. So we've shown, that you could have smooth operations. But I do think that, physical securing of the border, huge. And yes, interior enforcement, 100%. We've done more on that than any state. But removing the incentives to be here illegally is the most powerful. So in Florida, you're ineligible for a driver's license. You can't get in-state tuition. They put that in like 10 years ago. We took that away. You did those things. We did E-Verify, but the legislature would only do up to 25 employees. So if you have less than 25 employees as a business, you don't have to do verification for eligibility to work. And so if the feds, and then the remittances, the Somali fraud you saw in Minnesota, they're sending remittances back for the proceeds of that to Somalia. Well, you can tax the remittances, or you can even not allow remittances unless somebody is legally has a right to be here, or you can do a combination of both. But I would say getting at some of those carrots and removing some of the carrots, that'll do a lot to ensure we have a legal workforce, that we don't have large populations of people who are from foreign countries here illegally. And so it's a combination of all those, but removing the carrots. We've actually shown success in doing that in Florida. They've even written, I mean, it's interesting, some of the more liberal publications, they're writing about it as it's like negative, like, there's not as much money spent on health care because of, I think most taxpayers are glad to be saving money, right? I mean, isn't that what we want to do? But we've shown that can be successful, but a state cannot do what the federal government can do. I mean, the federal government could stop the remittances to Somalia tomorrow. Congress could get that done so easily. And just think about it. The reason they're committing the fraud is because they want to send the money back. And so it would be a disincentive for fraud, and obviously a disincentive to come and be employed here in this country illegally. So that would be what I would do. Well, I think most people that know me know that I've been a baseball fan, for a long time. Played. I mean, I got one of my board members, Tommy Kidwell. We played against each other in high school and on the same team, up at Yale there. And he was the captain my freshman year, and I ended up being the captain my senior year. And so I'm a big believer. But it's interesting. I was not. By the time I left for high school, the Rays still hadn't started. They started. Their first season was the year I was gone. And then obviously I've done different things, Navy, all this other stuff. And so I've never been here with actual full season Major League Baseball. Obviously we have spring training. But I look and see the Tampa Bay Lightning, like they sell out. It's like an amazing thing. Me growing up, I didn't know very many hockey fans, right? Almost everyone I knew liked baseball on some level. So that tells me is baseball can succeed in the Tampa Bay area. I have no doubt it can succeed. You have a reservoir, you have millions of people, and there's a high affinity for baseball in this community, but I think it's got to be done. I think you got to have the right ownership. I think the Lightning showed, when Jeff Bennett came in, he did a lot of great things and really built that into a great organization. And I think that the new Rays ownership is committed to doing that. And so the question is, you've got to get, I think, a mix of location. Obviously, you do need a more modern stadium. Then you also have to have other things that draw people to go. And so, that HCC site, those, first of all, it could be very good for HCC. And I've met with the president about it. I think he's excited about possibility. Obviously, they've got to iron out details, but basically, we're supportive of them pursuing that partnership because I think it could be good, particularly that part of the region. Because, you go there, the football stadium's great, but it's like, it needs some love, I think, right? It needs some rejuvenation. And this could potentially be something, not just having a park, but having restaurants and having other things, a hotel, some other things where it becomes something that people are drawn to. So, I just want to see the team succeed in Florida, first and foremost, as a governor of the state. I don't want to lose the team from the state. But then I also think, just as somebody that grew up in this area, the Tampa Bay area needs to be able to have the first chance to make this work. Because I know there's other parts of Florida that want it too. I mean, Orlando wants it. Disney would love to put it at the Wide World of Sports. Universal could put it close to their parks, other folks. So I do think there's a lot of interest, and they're trying to get an expansion team. So I think you see a lot of interest there. But I think that this is where the franchise was born, and I know, like, they tried to do something with Pinellas. Now they're going to try something to do with Hill. I know there's a lot of irons in the fire, and they got to do. But I do think the right formula. I know it can succeed here, and I think that's good for the economy. I think it's good for the overall region and kind of camaraderie. It's good for kids to be able to have a franchise that you can really get behind and be excited about. I was, just at the game yesterday, seeing, some of the younger kids, rooting for Indiana or rooting for Miami. We could definitely get that going here. I mean, I'm thinking like when I was growing up, we were Braves fans. Like, we didn't even have a team in Florida. We liked the Braves, and we liked the, Dunedin, we kind of liked the Blue Jays because that was the spring training thing, and they were winning the World Series in the early 90s. So you had all those different things that are going. But, I think that I think the vision for what it would mean for HCC, because, there's a lot of things that, quite frankly, need to be done there, too, with some of their facilities. Now, I help with the one building that their kind of newest building. We did that under my tenure, and that's good. But some of the other stuff, really, I think is gotten older. So I think they've got, kind of a shared vision that could potentially be very, very good. But ultimately, I want to just see this be a successful enterprise in one way or another. And, my position on all this has always been the same in terms of what we do at the state level. Like, we don't, from our coffers, we're going to help finance a stadium or whatever. It's just not what the state of Florida done. That's been our policy for a long time. I mean, I know local communities can work that out differently if they see fit. But, if we can be helpful and kind of, facilitating some of this, for example, we have a facility on that property, the Department of Juvenile Justice. They've been planning to leave for a long time, so they are going to leave that area. So that could open up, some stuff for HCC or for some of this. So there's a lot of different things. We could also help with infrastructure so that we don't have bad traffic jams getting in. And so we've done that for a variety of different things. I mean, heck, we did getting off at an interchange in Ocala. They're going to put a Buc-ee's there and other stuff, but Buc-ee's can cause a big traffic backup, and so we're doing that, and that's a great thing to do. It's fine. We have Buc-ee's in Ocala, Tallahassee. We have Buc-ee's in, and then there's going to be one in Charlotte County. Those three, and I think maybe one more is on the horizon. Some people were telling me about this or that. So, you're going to potentially see that more on this side of the state. So we'll see, how it works out. But I definitely think that there should be reason for optimism for people that like baseball in this community and want to see the rate. Because, they've produced some good players over the years. They've developed some good talent. It's a question of, baseball's going through a period where you kind of have, you have Goliath, the Los Angeles Dodgers, who can just spend and spend. You've got a handful of other teams who can also spend way above and beyond what others. Then maybe one more, and then you get down to kind of the lower rung, the markets that haven't generated as much. If you're drawing 15,000 fans a game, it's going to be tough to be where you need to be. You can start drawing 25,000. Or even you could draw 25,000 in this area with the right circumstances, right? It's got to be a good location, it's got to be a good venue, it's got to have some stuff to draw. But if you're starting to do that, well, then all of a sudden, the viability of everything really goes up. And I know this is going to be an issue in terms of Rays and where they end up, but then also just you're going to have the 26th season. And then, there's going to be a collision course in Major League Baseball with the labor situation. And a lot of people are assuming that there's going to be a pretty lengthy lockout. I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, I do remember as a kid when they did that in '94, that had a lot of problems, I think, for stopping some of the momentum. Took them some years to kind of get back going. So we'll see how that is. But certainly the economics of the game is just a little bit different than you see in some of the other major sports. And not that it's not really a small market anymore. I mean, we've got, in just the Tampa Bay media market, it's expensive. I can tell you that. I've bought ads here running for governor. You've got millions of people that are within, however long, however distance. But it's just, there's a lot to do in Florida. There's a lot of other pursuits. Same thing they're having in Miami. They built the stadium. It's nice. But there's just a lot of other pursuits. Whereas I think some of the areas, it's like, that's the thing that people want to do, especially come summertime, and that's that. So there's all these just different factors. But I think it can succeed. And I know that they've looked at a bunch of different things. But